Hi everybody, Dalwyn here, and thank you for joining me in my quarantined coffin, my concrete coffin of a room, once again, for another look at my favorites list on fanfiction.net. I've got 7 more stories for you today. I hope everybody's been being safe and, just keep it indoors as much as possible. And hey, there's a bunch of stories here. Maybe you take your mind off of that by reading some of these. Can't promise all of them are great, but I liked them at one point in time, probably, so let's just jump in. First one for today is The Wand Chooses the Wizard by Dalwyn. And this is a short story that goes off of a slight joke on the idea that Harry is the chosen one, and as Ollivander says, the wand chooses the wizard, and so all the wands choose Harry in this story. I guess it's just it's just a small bit of scenes with bit of word that's all based around this little bit of wordplay, I guess. Nothing you really need to read more than once, but it's at least a little bit of fun, a little funny. Probably put a small smile. So check it out, but you don't need to read it more than once, and it's not going to stay on my list. Next is dogbertcarroll fic, which I love dogbertcarroll. His humor I always love his stuff. This one's called Links Broken, Bonds Forged, and this one revolves around Xander getting kicked out of the Scooby Gang, like permanently, and finding a new girl to hang out with and get some magic powers along the way. So I never watched the show, so I'm not sure exactly when this happens, but based on the events, during the events, this takes place when the zombie guy goes to put a bomb to blow up the school, and so that's where it is on the timeline. And then after Xander gets kicked out of the main gang, he shacks up with the girl he finds and Faith, and they just become their own group and get a couple magic powers in order to keep problem solving for the powers that be. I always have a lot of fun with dogbertcarroll fics because I love his sense of humor and stuff. And this one, is again incomplete as most of his fics are. And though it doesn't feel fully fleshed out as some of his other fics are, there's still a lot here that's really fun. The main gimmick that they get for magic powers is that the girl that Xander finds gets the ability to hop into universes based on what's on TV, and so we get a bunch of humorous things where they jump into various fictional universes. I really liked it. I really liked it. It's a lot of fun, and like I said, it's still, even though it's not as fully formed as some of his other ones, there's still enough here to sink your teeth into for some good bits of humor. So it's gonna stay on my list. Right. Number 3 is a kind of timely one. This one's called Escape Plan Green by Mystic777, and this is a alternate take on Final Fantasy VII. So if you want to get some Final Fantasy VII fic reading in while you're waiting for the remake to drop, this is definitely a fic to check out, because basically it's super it's pretty crazy and stuff, and it's an AU that starts right. Basically, instead of Zack dying when they're on the run, he decides, hey, I can just turn you into a frog, so let's go looking for frogs. And that's just super fun. And that little bit of insanity just jumps forward into the main Final Fantasy VII story, where Zack's still alive, is now joining the gang, and everybody is just slightly crazy with everybody has their own weird tics that they do. Super huge amount of running gags going with abandon, and granted, you might need a bit of working knowledge of Final Fantasy VII to actually get everything, since they do skip a lot of the early sections of the game. Basically most of Midgar gets skipped in huge swaths, and we just see small bits, but the rest of the stuff is pretty forward. But otherwise, like, it's even if you only have a vague notion, it's still super enjoyable. Lots of craziness to be had, super fun, and it's still getting updated. Like, this one was just updated last month, so this guy's been working on this for 10 years and is still going. It's super awesome. I love it a lot. It's going to stay on my list. Number 4 for this video is Defendo et Spes by ImpromptuApathy. Right. And this is again, this is another Naruto Negima crossover that starts with Nagi being in Konoha for a while Naruto's really young, and then accidentally kidnapping him and then having him live with Neji. And then, you know, gets a small bit of that and then just jumps to technically it jumps to a year before Negima canon, where the girls, instead of being class 2A or 1A, and instead of Neji being the teacher, it's Naruto. And that's basically it. What's here and what exists is just setup. You know, you have a bunch of mysteries getting created with, like, Naruto's backstory and stuff, as well as the main players of class 1A meeting for the first time, because again, this is their first time meeting. By the next year, they're all settled. So you get a couple of that, but there's no like big emotional hooks to really satisfy anybody on an emotional level. There's nothing that you can actually, you know, get from it, and like I said, the main part of this is all like moving pieces and setup. You can safely skip this one, and it's not going to stay on my list. So we got a couple more with the Hill of Swords. The next one is the Hill of Swords by Gabriel Blessing. And this is a Fate Stay Night crossover with Familiar of Zero. So, and the base thing is really simple. Instead of Louise from Familiar of Zero summoning Saito, the generic, you know, Japanese kid they find, she instead summons Shiro. And not just any Shiro, but a Shiro who's pretty far down the line to becoming a counter guardian. Not quite there yet. He's not dead yet. He's actually still alive. So it's like a little bit before he would have died. And I like the story a lot. One, because it's complete. That's always a way to get a plus for the story. But two is that it grows the main characters rather quickly out of the obnoxious phase. I've stated before in many of these videos that I've grown to hate the playful abuse notion or like trope that is very persistent in a lot of anime, and it is definitely persistent, and it definitely exists in Familiar of Zero, with Louise basically beating up on whatever familiar she is for a very, very long time. And this story, you know, because Shiro is where he's at in life, he does not take that shit lying down and makes her move past that as a character pretty damn quickly, and removes that whole playful abuse notion from the relationship really fast, which is something I like a lot. After that, it's like, you know, both Shiro loosening up and becoming more human, and Louise appreciating people more as like their emotional journeys grow. There's a lot of humor in here, more than I remembered. And it actually, you know, it's mainly just because the dramatic and bloody moments stuck out more in my head. But there's a lot of humor to be had here. Yeah, there's it. While it does have some odd implications, the humor is there that mainly keeps it straying from a darker tone of the story. And, you know, the main characters are amusing, but we just mainly see them through either Louise or Shiro's eyes. Yeah, the one major complaint I have with this story is the ending, which really feels kind of tacked on or rushed. I'm not. So aside, and by the ending, I don't mean like the main story ending. I mean the epilogue and how it's done, because the Familiar of Zero as an anime got 2 seasons, and this story goes through both of them. And after that second season ends, it just jumps to way far years in the future, which, you know, I guess I get, because I guess the person didn't read the manga, the author didn't read the manga, so they only had the anime to go off of, maybe. But it just, you hear so many in the epilogue, you hear so many interesting things about what they did as over the years, that it would have been really cool to see those journeys and see those stuff. But, you know, like, while I say that's my major complaint, it's kind of a nitpicky complaint that, like, I just wish I could have seen more of the cool stuff. But the stuff that is there in the whole first 2 seasons of the anime that are there, I mean, the only seasons of the anime, but those stories are all done really well. I enjoy it a lot, and I'm super satisfied with this story, and it's definitely going to stay on my list. And if you like Familiar of Zero at all, I suggest checking it out. It's really a good time. Next is Waiting in Sin by Jericho's Phantom. And this is a Harry Potter and Bleach crossover, where it turns out Harry Potter is actually, I cannot say this guy's fucking name, Uluquora, the 4th Espada, the Bat guy. It's actually him reborn right after Ichigo kills him. And so this story basically takes place over the 7 years Harry goes to Hogwarts, or like those 7 years, 91 to 97. And it's pretty boring for the first 3 or 4 chapters, which are his first 3 years. But that's mainly because of how the story's structured. So the author writes this story with the idea that, like, okay, anybody who's reading this has probably read the main the canon Harry Potter books, like the actual books. So I can skip all the parts that I'm not going to change, and that's what the author does. If there's no like mental monologue or snide thing that he wants Uluquora to think while some canon point is happening, he just skips it. And for the first 3 years, not much changes, so a lot of it gets skipped. You know, you only really see scenes. The only scenes that you see that don't have changes are just there so that you can keep the timeline straight of when the other scenes are happening. And not much changes because for some reason Uluquora decided to make a mask of, present a mask, so a false persona to the world of meek canon Harry Potter, which I don't know how he decides on that for the first one, but that's what it is. After 4th year and on is where it starts getting interesting, because we start getting more Bleach characters in here who have also been reborn like Uluquora, and also just Uluquora jumping off canon and deciding, no, I'm gonna just do shit my own way. We get a couple especially big relationship dynamic changes that happen later on, and the buddy cop routine that goes on through the last 2 years or so is super funny and really enjoyable. At the beginning I wasn't so into this, but the latter half, latter 2/3 I want to say, because like I said, it's really only the first 3 chapters that are kind of a dull slog, but the rest of it is super enjoyable. I like this a lot, and if you like Uluquora as a character or stuff, you'll enjoy this too, and it's gonna stay on my list. Right, and I guess I had eight things in this one, not just 7. Or is it 7? I don't know. But here is the last one for this video. Is Naruto the Black Blade by Taigi86. And this is pure Naruto fic, where, instead of learning the Kage Bunshin when he steals the Forbidden Scroll right at the beginning of the anime, he keeps reading and unseals a sword, and that sword becomes his teacher. Like, he basically unseals a Zanpakuto from Bleach. Like, and not just that, basically he gets Aizen Zanpakuto. Like, this, it's not exactly the same, but it's a sword, like, and then he gets the sword spirit in his head, just like Zanpakutos are, and the sword's power is all about illusions and shit. So yeah, it's basically that. Well, there are changes to canon here, so it's not just straightforward retelling, you know, things like having a tournament to find out more about Naruto's abilities, and also making Naruto beat everybody, all the base genin, so he establishes himself as like an alpha kind of thing, and like Haku surviving the wave mission, stuff like that. I just didn't give a shit about this Naruto. Like, as a character, I just didn't care about him. You know, maybe it's again just because I've been reading so many fics of this, and the changes are so minor or surface level that it doesn't feel interesting, and like the writing is just surface level character development. But I just never really grew attached to anybody in this story, and I think it might be, again, mainly just because I'm reading so much, that unless you go deep into like character depth or stuff, I feel like it's either just not enough or just more run-of-the-mill. I don't think this is a bad story. I just think it's not very deep or interesting. You know, it's just a simple power-up story that doesn't have that many super big changes. Has a bunch of little changes, but it's also completely it's unfinished. It's been sitting there for 8 years. I don't think it's going to be continued, and it doesn't really have anything that makes it stand out. Like, nothing. It doesn't. Not only does it have nothing that makes it stand out, but it has nothing to make it memorable. It doesn't have anything to give it its own unique voice, and that's why it's going to fall off my list. So there we go. This video makes it over 450 stories that I've read on my list, and about 221 have been stayed. So there we go. I thank you all so much for watching, and I know times are annoying, so if this can take your mind off of staying at home, please go ahead, watch this video, read some of the stories. Links are in the description. If you want to see my actual profile, where I've have all these and a shit ton more that I still am not going to get to for at least another year or so, go ahead and have a look at that. And if you like the video, please leave a like or a comment, subscribe if you want to keep up to date when I post these. And thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.